What is up guys, it is Aaron from Rudy Visuals, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing this little guy. It is the Canon 85mm f1.8. So let's roll the intro. So why would anyone want this lens and what is it for? Well, 85mm is what many photographers consider an ideal focal length for portraits because it maintains closeness to your subject but without showing too much distortion. Now, if you've ever taken a photo on your phone, for example, or on something like a GoPro and thought, why does my face look like all out of proportion? Well, it's because the focal length affects how your face is perceived, and usually phones and action cameras have like really wide focal lengths. So you get that really like warped fisheye look, but it's not really flattering on people. Just to illustrate this point, Vera took some photos at some different focal lengths, which we're gonna show you right now. At 24mm, for example, my face looks kind of deformed and out of proportion, but you can see that the longer the focal length is, the more pleasing and flattering it becomes, because things like my nose don't appear too big and my facial features aren't really like super warped or anything, essentially making your subject look better. You also get more compression, so the backgrounds look closer to your subject and you get more subject separation. So those nice blurry out of focus backgrounds look more creamy, whilst your subject looks nice and sharp. Now, as a photographer, 85mm is also great for you as the shooter, because while you do have to stand like a little bit further back on a full frame camera, you're not so close that you're like right up in your model's face, but not so far back that you're like having to yell at them like you would on a 70-200 when you're like zoomed all the way in, which can feel a little bit too impersonal. This is why it's great for shooting people at like, for example, a concert or maybe like at a wedding. Now, 85mm isn't a very flexible focal length, however, for anything other than kind of like portrait work or for isolating details in a scene. So if you're a vlogger or you make like travel videos, this might not be the best fit for you. Now, usually prime portrait lenses can be like really expensive, but this is just £329 in the UK. Now that sounds like it's kind of expensive, but compare it to Canon's f1.2 or 1.4 versions, which are like 5 or 6 times more expensive. The price of this lens is actually very reasonable and quite appealing, especially if you're a newcomer or you're on a tight budget. Now, this is not exactly a new lens. In fact, it was first released in 1992, and while there are other 85mm lenses on the market now, Canon actually never bothered to make a new version of the f1.8 because it's basically still good and still relevant decades later. Now, the build quality of this lens is decent. It is plasticky and not comparable to Canon's L series lenses or something like this. Canon 24-105, which does feel a little bit more premium and a little bit better built. However, it is built from very solid feeling plastics and it has a metal mount, something which is usually found on Canon's more expensive lenses. It's definitely durable feeling, definitely more durable than something like 50mm f1.8, for example. Now, however, I wouldn't take this out in the rain or the snow. It isn't actually weather sealed. However, it does have a nice weight to it. It does feel strong and it does help that the glass does look quite pretty. Now, focusing with this lens is very snappy and silent. The focus ring feels nice and smooth. We have paired this lens with a Canon 60 Mark II and the crop sensor at 80D, and we've had pretty much zero issues with getting images in focus. Likewise with video, using Canon's dual pixel AF system, focusing locks onto subjects really quickly and very reliably. However, the ultrasonic motor on this lens is a little bit noisy when you are shooting video. You can definitely hear that little bit of a whir whilst it's like looking for focus. So it's just something to bear in mind if you're shooting like a, I don't know, like a wedding or something intimate like that. So what about image quality? Overall, we have been super impressed with the image quality of this lens. Photos are tack sharp and subjects really pop. I'm going to show you a few examples of some of the photos that we've taken with this lens. Shots look super crispy wide open, and at f1.8 the bokeh and background blur just looks so beautiful, and of course wide open you get really great low light performance, especially when you pair it with like a full frame sensor camera like the Canon 60 Mark II. Chromatic aberration is a problem and quite noticeable, however. This is when you get like purple fringing on any contrasting edges, but this can be fixed fairly easily in post, but it can be a little bit annoying. This does get worse like wide open, but if you stop down to f2.8 or f4, the problem does improve. Now this is a very common issue with a lot of 85mm lenses, so it's not exclusive to just this lens, so just bear that in mind. Now in terms of video, this lens is awesome for B-roll. It feels like it was made just for B-roll with that long focal length and super wide aperture, which lets in a ton of light, so you're able to get that awesome bokeh and background blur for detail shots and like close-ups of people. Now keep in mind that with this lens there is no image stabilization at all, so because 85mm is like quite a tight focal length, every little shake and shudder will be like amplified more. So for video you really do have to put this thing on like a tripod or a gimbal, or hopefully you have like really steady hands. And if you want really smooth shots, we usually use it with our Zhiyun Crane 2 gimbal to get us like professional usable shots. So overall, the Canon 85mm f1.8 is a very reasonably priced lens, and with it you're getting something that is capable of getting like really beautiful visuals, whether you're using it for video or you're using it for photos. For those interested in portrait, it's probably the best bang for the buck you can get and the best portrait lens at this price point without a doubt for Canon cameras. And likewise, if you're a video shooter and you're looking for something that will help you shoot more like beautiful B-roll, this is well worth considering. So this little guy has pretty much been the go-to lens that we've been using for most of our portrait shoots. I'm going to show you a few more examples now of some of the photos that we've taken with this lens, as well as some video footage as well. So anyway guys, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you guys found it useful. This is a great lens and I highly recommend it for people who are looking to get a cheap and budget portrait lens. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, where you can see more examples of our work, as well as our website www.rudyvisuals.com. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. And as always, I will see you guys on the next video. All right, bye-bye.